God.
There it is. There it is. Good morning, everyone. This morning we are going on a very special pilgrimage to see something called Tule Fog. Right now I am on the 5, which is a freeway that runs through the entirety of California. So it's a major artery here in California. Specifically, I am heading towards a section of the 5 called the Grapevine. So we are going up, very far, very fast. I think right now we're at about 3,000 feet and rapidly increasing. And you can see signs that say things like radiator water, a mile away, or turn off AC to prevent overheating. And the reason for that is because this highway runs through a mountain pass called Tahoe Pass. So if you were coming into Los Angeles in the horse and buggy days, you would have taken this exact same route to get into town, because Los Angeles is surrounded on all sides by mountains. And mountains are very inhospitable terrain. They're bad for almost every aspect of human infrastructure, roads, construction, utilities, plumbing, buildings, everything like that, including building highways. So the only way to get through these very tall, very large mountains is to find a route that nature carved for you already in the form of a mountain pass. So a mountain pass would be an area that you can sort of shimmy through that was carved years ago due to geologic processes. One of the things that makes California so unique is that it is very geologically young. So all of the tectonic activities that played a hand in forming the California that we know today happened very recently in human history. As opposed to the East Coast, the Appalachian Mountains and things of that nature, they're very smooth. They're sort of more rolling hills because they formed longer ago. So they had more time to be sort of weathered down and smoothed over by the passage of time. Versus out west, the Rockies and things of that nature formed very recently. So they're more jagged, they're more crumbly. Many people consider them to be more scenic, though I think it's just different types of beauty, both beautiful in their own way. But that's the reason why, you see so many landslides and mudslides in California, because the ground is new. It hasn't had a lot of time to be compressed, so it's very crumbly. And if you go on a hike here in California, if you were to go on a hike somewhere down there in the San Gabriel Mountains, you could take your hand and literally grab the cliff face and just start pulling it apart, and it would start falling apart and crumbling. So imagine then trying to build buildings on top of that. So all the houses that people decide to try to build on these hills and these mountains, they're just all sitting on top of that crumbly soil. So a lot of times when it rains, California's geography is also unique in the sense that it's not fully a desert, but it's not fully wet either. So it's about half and half. So half of the year, there's no rain. There's a dry season and a wet season. So we won't get any rain for 6 or 8 months sometimes. And then all of a sudden, when the wet season hits, we'll get a deluge of rain. And all that rain so fast, after so long of not having rain, saturates that crumbly soil and basically makes it give way completely. It's very scary, it's very dangerous, and it reminds, it's one of those things that reminds you that really we are just ants on a hill here, at the mercy of forces that are much greater than us, that we, can't possibly understand. That's also the reason why, that's also the reason why there's so many earthquakes in California, because geologically, the activity that has caused its formation is recent and still happening, so it's very geologically active. If you don't know what an earthquake is, it's basically when the two tectonic plates of Earth all of a sudden buckle, because the tectonic plates are moving constantly. And so, the force of the shake is equal to if you hear magnitude 8 earthquake, magnitude 9 earthquake, or whatever. So it's one of those things that's like, California is really great, and it's beautiful, and there's so many things about it that are so amazing, the weather, the scenery, all of that. But there's a yin and a yang to everything, because everything that makes California so nice, hopefully you can see out the window there, look at that, everything that makes California so nice, the fact that it's sunny and 75 here on a December morning, is also what makes it more dangerous and volatile. And so it's sort of a give and a take, it's a trade-off. You get the beauty of California, it's very expensive, but you also have to live with the fact that at any moment you could die. Although I guess that's kind of true for everywhere, and anything. That's kind of the whole point of being alive. But regardless, everything about California is balanced. So, anyway, we're approaching the grapevine here, and my little joke this morning has been I heard through the grapevine that there was going to be some Tule Fog, because we have to, if we go through the grapevine, we'll see the Tule Fog. I-5, the grapevine, is notorious. It is one of the most notorious stretches of highway in the country because it goes through this inhospitable terrain. And there's certainly more areas of the country where a road or a highway, goes through terrain that's more inhospitable. When I say inhospitable, I'm talking about, steep, curvy. There's a very steep grade. So there's certainly probably more areas of the country where it's steeper or whatever. But what makes it unique here is the volume of traffic that passes through it. Because Los Angeles is one of the most populated cities in America, or the world, rather. So there's tons and tons and tons of people that go in and out of the city, tons of cargo, tons of trucks, tons of everything. And, because Los Angeles is surrounded on all sides by mountains, there's only so many ways that you can build a freeway to get in and out. There's only so many options that you have if you want to go to and from the city by car, So one of those is the 5, Tejon Pass. And they had to build the highway basically across multiple thousand feet of elevation, changing very rapidly. Another reason why California is unique is because it changes so rapidly, so quickly in such a short area, Oh, sorry, the view is going to be blocked by this truck here for a minute. But see, this is a great example. See this truck? There's a ton of them. And they all have to travel on the Grapevine to get into one of the major cities in the world. Now, the problem with that is that trucks are very big and they're very heavy. So when a truck goes downhill, at a 45-degree angle, or it has to go uphill at a 45-degree angle, all that weight is being propelled by the forces of gravity. So these big, heavy trucks, when they go downhill, they're being assisted by forces that are much greater than our understanding, or they're being held back by forces that are much greater than our understanding. And so trying to stop something that's big and heavy against gravity's wishes is extremely difficult. And therein, trying to propel something up that is acting against the force of gravity is also very difficult, and it requires a lot of energy. So even if you're in a small car, there's many stories of people trying to go on the Grapevine and having their radiator overheat, or having their transmission issues or brake issues or all that stuff, So a lot of times when you're going on these steep stretches of highway, you'll see, the trucks are over in the right lane, going maybe 45 miles per hour. Actually, as a matter of fact, I think that the truck speed limit, there's a specific speed limit for trucks here that's 45 miles an hour, versus regular cars, you can go 55, I think, or 65. But honestly, you're going to have a hard time getting to those speeds. Again, because like I said, you're working against the force of gravity. And maybe you've been able to tell looking out the window here. I wanted to give you guys a view that would prioritize the window, but you're working, sort of. It's just requires a lot of engineering to try to make this drive on this highway that I'm doing right now possible. Now, that brings us to the Tule Fog of it, the tool of it all. The tool of it all. And when I'm saying Tule Fog, I'm saying T-U-L-E. So if you're a fan of my channel, you may remember something called the marine layer that I talk about frequently. And the marine layer is a layer of fog that forms in the LA basin in the late spring, early summer time of the year. And the Tule Fog is a very, 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 very similar principle. It happens for very similar reasons. So remember how I said that California, the geography changes very quickly in a very small area in a very short amount of time? So you can do a 10-minute drive and end up in a completely different universe, which is what we're about to do when we get up here, hopefully. So, like I said, LA is a basin that's surrounded on all sides by mountains, which means that there's not a lot of airflow that can happen because it's being blocked by all the mountains, except for on the ocean side. So that's why the climate is so temperate and nice, because you have that ocean breeze that's constantly blowing in and getting stopped against the mountains. So really we're very maritime. We're sort of at the whims of the ocean's moderating influences, and water changes temperature slower than air does. So the temperature of the water is not as reactive to the temperature of the air around it, which means that the temperature of the water has more of an influence on our temperature than the temperature of the surrounding air on the land, if that makes sense. So that's why closer to the coast, you don't get a lot of extremes. You don't get a lot of extreme temperatures because you have that water, the influence of the marine influence, moderating the temperatures. And so when the fog forms, when the marine layer forms, it happens because of a temperature inversion, which means that there's cold air below a layer of hot air, and the hot air is pressing down on the cold air. And the cold air has nowhere to go because it's blocked by the mountains in the basin. So the reason I'm explaining all this is because, and also, I don't know if you might be able to see up here in a minute, you'll see some deciduous trees that are changing color, some more fall colors, because we are approaching the top of the mountain. So when you increase elevation or decrease elevation, you change temperature, because the air gets thinner and you have a different airflow and everything changes, which is why California has so many microclimates. So anyway, when the fog forms, it has nowhere to go. So it's stuck in that basin, which is also why LA is so smoggy, because the smog from everybody's car exhaust and everything, and the exhaust of buildings and everything that pollutes our air gets trapped in the bowl, so it doesn't have anywhere to go. The same exact thing happens in California's Central Valley. And the Central Valley of California is a very, very large valley that runs down the middle, that is surrounded on one side by the Sierra Nevada mountains and surrounded on the other side by, well, I guess it's a lot of different mountains. It's basically mountains on every single side. And it's less of a bowl shape as opposed to, I guess it's a very long, if you had a very long bowl, like one of the bowls that, you would put wasabi on and things at a sushi restaurant, I guess that could be comparable. But, sorry, I got distracted thinking about sushi. Yummy! I love sushi. The Central Valley is unique, like everything else in California is, because it has very fertile soil. And so it used to be filled with water once upon a time, So there's all that sort of decaying organic matter forms a layer of soil that is very conducive to growing food. So agriculture, which obviously you can't do in the mountains because rocks aren't very good for digging, rocks aren't very good for planting, and rocks aren't very good for growing tomatoes. So all of that agriculture is consolidated in the Central Valley. So if you eat a tomato, if you go to the grocery store and you get a tomato or you get a zucchini, there's a very, 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 very large chance that it's coming from California's Central Valley, because there's also a lot of sunshine, and plants love sunshine. So all the conditions are pretty perfect there for growing food. The only problem is that you get that bowl effect again. So similarly with Los Angeles, the smog and the pollutants doesn't have anywhere to go. It gets stuck because the wind can't travel through the walls of mountains, if you want to think of it like that. And so that also affects the tool of it all. So in the wintertime, when you enter the wet season, you get higher humidity, right? Especially at lower elevations. So you have the cold, wet air radiating off of the cold, wet ground after maybe the first rain of the year. That causes fog to form. Remember how I said the cold air, there's a layer of cold air, and then on top of the layer of cold air, there's a layer of warm air, and the warm air is pressing down in the cold air. So the fog forms only in the Central Valley, only in that sushi bowl of wasabi that I was talking about. It gets trapped in there because it can't go anywhere, and it hangs around forever. Not forever, literally, but it's actually, I believe that they've been experiencing the Tule Fog for several weeks. So Sacramento, Bakersfield, what's the other one? What's the capital of California? I forget. I can't believe it. Is it Sacramento? Yeah. Let's get into the tool of it all. So, as you can imagine, fog is very depressing. Do you see how right now it's very dry and sunny? Well, it's about to not be that very soon, because we're traveling on I-5 through the Grapevine, and we're about to descend down. The mountains end very abruptly because we're on a fault line. So mountains are formed by two tectonic plates pushing against each other, and it goes whoop, like that. See that? Whoop! And it forms a mountain because the land is pressing against each other. So when you get to the other side of the tectonic plate, if it's just flat, then you just go downhill. So you might be able to see here too, it's going to be very steep when we go down. Whenever I take this stretch of road, like I said earlier, if you were on a horse and buggy back in the pioneer days, you would have taken this exact route through Tahoe Pass. And I can't even imagine. I just can't imagine what that must have been like. I mean, oh, okay. Also, so all right. Another thing about the Grapevine is that because it travels such high elevation, the weather is completely different at the top. See, here it is, Tahoe Pass, elevation 4,100, 400, whatever it is. The weather is very different up here than it is down there or down there. So a lot of times it will snow only at the top. One time, actually, I was driving back to Los Angeles from the Central Valley, and it was wintertime, and I didn't know this because I'm not I'm checking the weather for the destination. I'm checking the weather for Bakersfield, or I'm checking the weather for Los Angeles. I'm not checking the weather for the middle stretch of highway that I'm going through to get to point A to point B. I'm not checking the weather for the stretch of 10 miles highway. So there was a blizzard on the Grapevine, and I had no idea there was going to be a blizzard. So all of a sudden, it was completely whiteout conditions. In the middle of California, I couldn't see anything. It was coming down so quickly that there were inches and inches and inches of snow that were just falling before my eyes. It was the most scared I've ever been in my life. Oh my gosh, it was so scary. The second most scared I've ever been in my life was just then when I passed that police car. Hello everyone. The camera is outside the car right now, but I'm inside the car. And we are rapidly approaching the end of the Grapevine, where we descend down into the Central Valley. And when that happens, I believe that we are going to see the Tule Fog pretty abruptly. So hopefully that'll be a pretty decent view that we'll be able to get here. As long as I don't get pulled over I'm not actually sure. I'm not really sure about the legality of this. Eddie, maybe you might have to cut this out, because basically I have the camera mounted onto the windshield with a suction cup mount, which is rated for this. Man, the cops are out this morning. This is the fourth cop that I've seen. Oh my goodness, they are getting people. Guess they got nothing to do today. Pretty quiet up here. Man, that's crazy. That is literally the fourth cop that I've seen who had actively pulled someone over. I'm fucked. I might be fucked. Hopefully we'll get some good footage if that happens. I don't see how having a camera mounted to the car would be any different than having those bikes mounted to the car up there on that Tesla. That's just as much of a liability. I mean, my camera is rated for this. Okay, here we go. Check out this sign. It says 5 miles of 6% downgrade. Trucks use low gears. And that's because of exactly what I was talking about before. We're going to go downhill very steep, very fast. And so for a car, it's not as much of a big deal. But for a truck, if your brakes fail, like I said, it takes a lot of engineering to try to stop something that's acting against the force of gravity that's very, very heavy and traveling quickly. So, if your brakes fail, then you're just going to keep going. So if you've got a big, big, heavy truck that is being propelled by the force of gravity downhill, you need to have a way to stop that is not your brakes. So that's why they have these things called runaway truck ramps, which are pretty funny because they're designed for you to literally drive your truck into and crash, because they're basically just pits of gravel, which hopefully you'll see one here. Hopefully we'll get a view of one. Um, but yeah, so if you're out of control, you just turn your truck right into the runaway truck ramp, and then the gravel slows you down and you can stop. Obviously, that's only something that you would want to do in an emergency, you know? Although I will say that every time that I pass it, see that sign that says truck lane 35 miles per hour? That's because it's truck speed limit. See those signs? Truck speed limit 35 miles per hour there. See that? Yep. Got to be careful. I always get a little tempted to just drive into it. It's sort of one of those, your intrusive thoughts, if you listen to your intrusive thoughts. There it is, runaway truck ramp. It's not here yet. Well, that was just the sign for it, but I'll show you if we approach it here. And then I believe once we get across this wall of mountains here, then the Tule Fog will be illuminated into view. Hopefully it should be pretty cool. I don't know what we're going to do if it doesn't, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. There it is! There it is! Wait, you guys see? You can see it a little peeking out back there. Oh, wow, look at that. Holy moly. There's we're approaching the runaway truck ramp too. You'll see on the right-hand side here. See? Skirt! I'm just kidding. But look, doesn't it look so tempting to just drive right into it? Wow! See it up there? Wow, 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 wow. Man, it'd be depressing to be under that. We're about to be in a minute here.
Tule Fog is named after tule grass, a plant native to the freshwater wetlands found in the Central Valley and all over North America. It typically forms after the first significant rainfall of the year. The formation of Tule Fog in the winter is one of the things that makes the Central Valley perfect for agriculture. Many major crops such as almonds, cherries, pistachios, and peaches require prolonged temperatures between 32 and 45 degrees Fahrenheit during the winter to grow properly.
Wow, here we go. We're descending into the Tule Fog now. See how it all of a sudden got really, really flat? We are now in California's Central Valley. And this is the part where the 5 gets real boring, because it's just a straight ass line right down the middle. Flat, flat, flat. Nothing to see but arugula. And you can smell it too. You can smell the fertilizer. No offense to anybody who lives in the Central Valley, but I always close my windows when I drive through and I turn on the AC because, I don't know, that air, that trapped air. I believe that Bakersfield actually consistently ranks among the top, most polluted cities. So, sorry, Bakersfield. This is pretty historic because they haven't been plagued by this Tule Fog. It's been weeks that this fog has just been covering the whole area. So all these you poor folks that live in the Central Valley, I'm sorry, because it's probably been very depressing.
Tule Fog is also the leading cause of weather-related traffic accidents in California. Visibility can be near zero, and it can also vary rapidly. 1 second, you might be driving at freeway speeds with enough visibility to see what's in front of you comfortably. Then, visibility can suddenly reduce to near zero, meaning you can't see what's in front of you long enough to stop in time. This causes many chain reaction pile-up accidents. One such accident occurred on December 12, 1997, when 25 cars and 9 big rig trucks collided inside a fog bank, killing 5 people and injuring 28. It took 26 hours to clear away all the wreckage and reopen the freeway.
Wow! Holy moly, look at how dense this fog is. Oh my gosh. It's ground level. Wow. No wonder this is so dangerous. The Tule Fog is the leading cause of accidents, weather-related, in California, I believe. Oh my gosh, you can't see anything. Wow. Wow, that's crazy. Man, this is depressing. Oh my gosh, this is crazy. Man, the camera is going to get all wet. Didn't think about that. I didn't think it was going to be straight up drizzle. Okay, I got to pull over. It's all right. That's the B cam, so that's the backup. Okay, any day now, an exit would be great. Any day now. This camera's fucked. Shit. Well, that's all right. It was for the purposes of discovery. Oh my God, where is there going to be an exit? Every second there's not an exit, this very expensive camera gets closer to being completely broken. Well, since you can't see anything, I can't point out anything, but I guess this is a good representation of what the fog is like. All right, come on. God, I'm getting mad now. I hate this place. I got to get out of here as soon as possible. Fucking hell.
Eventually, I did find a place to pull over and check on the camera.
God damn it. Damn. That sucks. Well, I don't know about that one, folks. Hello, everyone. I'm on the ground here in the Central Valley. Jesus Christ. If you live here, I'm sorry. I mean, you know, this is rough. This is pretty rough, I gotta say. Especially considering, what makes it even worse is the fact that, you know, if you just drive 10 minutes up the road, it's the most beautiful day that you've ever seen in your entire life. That's gotta be pretty torturous. So keep in mind, these people have been living in this fog for weeks straight. It's been like this every single day, every moment of every day for weeks. So that's really something to consider. Okay, I'm heading on the 5 South back to Los Angeles. And you know something? This experience has been very sobering for me. I'm glad that I did it because, you know, you take it for granted when you're not in the Tule Fog. You take it for granted that you wake up and it's a nice, sunny, clear, dry day like it was at the beginning of this video. I considered the Tule Fog to be like a, oh wow, fun, novelty. You know, whoa, look at the Tule Fog. That's crazy. But then now that I'm down here, now that I'm in it, I feel the real emotional toll that this Tule Fog and the weather in general, you know, takes on a person psychologically. You know, one of the reasons why I love the weather so much and why I'm so interested in it is because when I was growing up, and it, you know, obviously still to this day, but it had such a huge impact on me. It would affect everything about how I felt that day. You know, it would affect everything about my outlook in life, everything about my emotions. You know, if a day like today, this kind of weather would make me feel completely hopeless. This kind of weather would make me feel so emotionally horrible that I dedicated my entire life to never having to experience this type of weather again. And I came out to Los Angeles for a lot of reasons, but that certainly was a big factor. And nobody knows more than me that weather has real world consequences. You know, I mean, think about all the people who have died in car accidents because of the Tule Fog, or the fog just like this, you know? I mean, those are people who weather phenomenons ended their lives. I mean, it's, you know, it's just very, it's, I mean, you think about people who maybe, I don't know, it's just, it's very sad. So, that being said, let's get the fuck out of here, pardon my French. So now I'm on the 5 South and we're going to be going out of the Tule Fog. Thank the Lord, because I can't take much of this much longer. All right, everybody, we are officially headed out of the Tule Fog. You can see right over there, it's starting to clear. Thank the Lord, because I was really starting to lose it. Look, and there's the sun. You can't see that much, but oh, here we go. Oh, thank God. Salvation again. Oh, please, sun, hold me in your warm embrace. Oh, okay, sorry. I figured that all the people who wanted to watch this for a normal weather reason are not watching anymore. So now it's just people who are, you know, the real diehards. Here we go! Starting to clear. Out of the Tule Fog. Goodbye, Tule Fog. We hardly knew ya. Smell you later. Oh, that already feels better. Whew! Oh, man. Oh! Oh! Oh, feel that sun. Oh, that's good. Here we go. So now, once it clears, you'll be able to see in the distance the mountains again, which we're rapidly approaching. So look at that. Look how steep. Look how quickly uphill you have to go. And you can even sort of see, once we get a little closer, there's the little, remember how I said we got to shimmy our way through? Shimmy our way through to Hone Pass there. Oh my God! Oh, look at that. And now it's a beautiful, crisp, perfect, sunny day again. Just like that. Isn't that crazy? It's unbelievable. Okay, everybody, so we are headed back on the Grapevine on the 5, but this time we're going south. So see, you're going to see this sign up here. It says, avoid overheating, turn off air conditioner. Did you see it on the left side? I like to call this part the radiator buster, because you'll see here, it's so steep uphill. You know, it's easy to go downhill because gravity is assisting you. But this way, it's a lot harder because gravity is working against you. So your car and your engine, all of these engineering problems, you know, we have to use our dinky little human tools to try to surmount the forces of nature that, like I said, are far, far more powerful than us. And we've tried our best to conquer them as much as we can, but it still is just one of those things that reminds me, you know, we are just ants crawling along our little ant hill at the mercy of all these forces. Ants in the Tule Fog. You'll see another sign up here on your right. Water, half mile. So that's water for your radiator in case your radiator's overheating. If your radiator ever overheats and your car starts steaming, pull over, shut the car off, wait a little bit. It's very important that you wait, because if you don't wait and you try to open the cap where you can put in the coolant, it's going to explode in your face. And that's going to be hot, hot steam. Wait a little bit. Pour some water into it, because you can use water as coolant. You shouldn't long term, but for temporarily you can. If you're in an emergency, like you're on the Grapevine and your car's overheating. Pour the coolant in, and hopefully that should get you at least some of the ways. And then go to a mechanic, because you've got a radiator problem. I learned that the hard way when I had a PT Cruiser, actually, for the longest time. That was certainly the worst car that I've ever had the misfortune of having to drive. It was horrible. Every 2 weeks there was something wrong with that damn car. But I'll tell you, it actually ended up being good in the long run, because the fact that it was such a shitty car, it was sort of like a crash course, no pun intended, right? A crash course in all the things that could possibly go wrong with your car. So I learned a lot about car maintenance, and it made me think, I think if you're somebody who's just learning to drive, at the beginning you should have a shitty car, so that you learn the ropes. You can also see here, these hills are a little green. Something else interesting about California is that because our wet season is in the winter, it's greener here in the winter than it is in the summer, which is the complete opposite of most other places in America. Because in the summertime we don't get any rain, so everything dries out. But in the wintertime, it starts to rain more, and so the grass grows, certain plants start to bloom, and so it's the total opposite. So if you're somebody who has winter seasonal depression, California really is great for reversing it, because now, honestly, I think that the winter is my favorite season here, because the summer's hot and dry, and the winter's just a lot nicer. I mean, it's a perfect day here. It's not a perfect day down there in the Tule Fog, but it's a perfect day up here. It's warm. It's warm now. This always happens to me driving around because of all the microclimates. It's like, it was 40 degrees down there in the Tule Fog, and now it's almost 70 up here. So you have to keep a lot of different layers in the car. There's Los Angeles, 75 miles. That's where we're going.
Earlier that morning, Los Angeles had been dealing with some fog of its own, the marine layer. Here you can see me about to enter a fog bank, much like the one in the Central Valley. But when I returned from my Tule venture, the fog had cleared, and it was a pleasant, sunny day with temperatures in the mid-70s. Sadly, the same cannot be said for our neighbors in the Central Valley. However, I pray that the fog will clear for them too in due time.
Hello everybody, I'm back here in sunny Los Angeles. You can see behind me here some of that green grass I was talking about. Feeling very grateful. If you live in the Central Valley, I'm so sorry. Please keep your head up. Drive safely. Hopefully it'll be over soon. Yeah. Thanks for coming along with me on my Tule venture. See you soon.